It's finally happening. Christian Encarnacion-Strand is being promoted by the Cincinnati Reds. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Monday, July 17th. I am Frank Sample, joined by Scott White, and let's talk about it. Encarnacion-Strand finally getting called up by the Cincinnati Reds, 23 years old. He tore it up during spring training and then did the same thing down in the minors where he was batting .331 with 20 home runs and a .1042 OPS. CES is 56% rostered, Scott. Is he a must-add? Does he play every day? Your thoughts?
I don't know the answer to the second question. There is a lot of crowding happening on the Reds team, but they don't have a dedicated DH. They've seemed less motivated to place Tyler Stevenson, their catcher, there in recent weeks. They seem to have moved Spencer Steer to the outfield. It seems like they've been aligning things to prepare for Encarnacion-Strand to play kind of a split role between DH and hopefully first base, alternating with Votto so that he can pick up eligibility at that very important position in fantasy. So we'll see with the playing time. But if he performs, the playing time's going to be there, and he may perform spectacularly. You mentioned he was the talk of spring training, Christian Encarnacion-Strand, for like the first half of it. Hit monster home runs, seemed to have multiple hits every day, looked like he was pushing for an opening day job. It didn't happen, and then he got stuck in the minors a lot longer than anybody thought. I think just because he's so far down the defensive spectrum, can play a bad third base, but mostly just first base DH. That makes him a hard fit. That's also why he hasn't shown up particularly high on traditional prospect lists. But the production has been amazing. You talked about this year. I mean, last year, same thing. In just 122 games, 32 home runs, 114 RBI in 122 games. And you know, he gets a lot of credit for the power. Obviously, that's the loudest tool Christian Encarnacion-Strand has. But he hit .322 in more than 800 career minor league at-bats. That puts him in rare company for batting average. So I think we're kind of sleeping on this guy as an all-around hitter. He's a very good bad ball hitter like Vladimir Guerrero Sr. was. Gets a lot of hits on balls outside the zone. The plate discipline has been bad throughout his career, but drastically improved in recent weeks. He went from walking 3 times in his first 28 games to 30 times in his last 39. So I think the Reds have decided the time is now, and I think he could be a huge source of power. And again, hopefully picks up first base eligibility soon because a lot of people have a need there. Currently eligible at third base if you have a need there.
And there was a lot of news this weekend. Big injury news as well. Shane Bieber went to the IL Saturday with right elbow inflammation and will be shut down from throwing for the next 2 weeks, which brings us into another prospect who's getting recalled. That is Grayson Rodriguez. So if you lost out on Bieber, I think you could go out and add Grayson Rodriguez. He's 66% rostered, and in 7 starts since getting sent back to the minors, a 1.69 ERA, a .99 whip, 54 strikeouts over 37 and a third innings down there. Scott, what is your confidence level that this can carry over into the majors for Grayson Rodriguez?
Medium, I would say. I mean, obviously he was terrible the first 2 months we saw him, an ERA near 8. But what I take comfort in this return stint in the minors. That was really the first time we've seen Grayson Rodriguez look like Grayson Rodriguez since he suffered that lat injury last June. He came back before last season was done, but the numbers weren't dominant like we're used to seeing from him. Didn't look great in spring training, got a job anyway, didn't look great the first 2 months, got sent back down with certain things to work on, namely fastball command and regaining the shape of his breaking balls. This is a guy who's supposed to have like a full arsenal of swing and miss pitches. That's what made him the top pitching prospect in baseball. And we just weren't seeing it, but looked like he got it back at AAA, and hopefully it'll carry over. Whether you lost Bieber or not, I'd be looking to add Grayson Rodriguez. Everybody could use another pitcher. I think it's even easier to justify adding him regardless of format than it is Encarnacion-Strand.
All right, would you drop names like Luis Severino, Lance Lynn, Taj Bradley for Grayson Rodriguez?
I would drop all 3. I would hesitate the most with Lynn. I'd rather hold on to Lynn than not. But if that's your only way to get Rodriguez on your roster, okay, yeah, I'd do it.
Yep, I agree with that. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.